But I think there is also this fear of like, if I truly believe that I am worth my wildest dreams, will I become, even though I know I'm not a bad person, will I become a bad person? Because when you think of people who truly believe in, well, I'm worth everything, it's those are selfish people, those are narcissistic people who actually like believes that they are deserving of anything, right? There is this sense of like justice, I think, that fights against that for me. That's like you have to earn anything and you actually should fight for and
Mm,
work for anything that you get. Why should you just be given anything? And even though cognitively I don't agree with that, I do think that there are things that as human beings we just deserve to have, right? Um, because we need them to survive. But there is very much this like clinging to meritocracy, and if you make it to the top of that mountain, you must be bad in some way. You must have had to step on other people to get there. Um and that means that you're bad. And I think that that's the fear, that if you do really internalize that, what's to stop you from ignoring people when you pass them on the street, being rude to wait staff, not saying thank you when someone opens the door for you because it's like, well, of course I deserve it. And again, logically, you know that that's not necessarily how that will roll, but couldn't it?
interesting. No, that's very very self-aware, I think. And I guess the question that comes up then is like, what would this this idea of, be what I heard, and again, maybe see if this, if it's if I'm if I think too highly of myself, then I'm bad. If I, you know and I almost often wonder is, if I could get whatever I wanted, then I would be no better than these selfish people who get what, who have everything that they want. And or it seems, again, I feel like a lot of people who, for instance, have tons of money are generally pretty unhappy people anyway. So
Right.
in just an observation, not that there's anything, and I think maybe people who are really happy, who have money, you just don't know about them because they're not out there they're just living their lives happily. Yeah, it's interesting to notice that fear, and then question if it's really true though. I mean, I have trouble seeing. You could have universal absolute power, and I still don't see you going out of your way to step on people. Just that's my observation of you. And so in some senses you're actually, and this just came to me, maybe it's not true, I don't know, but you're almost doing to yourself what you're afraid you're going to do to others. So you're stepping on yourself by not, you're putting yourself down. You're literally making yourself smaller so as to, I mean, to keep yourself from possibly hurting somebody else that there's no evidence for, right?
Right. Right.
There's no, so it's just so interesting. And again, I'm not trying to solve it, judge it, or
No,
anything, but just
no.
notice it, because is it true? That's the big question. If you had unlimited power, if you were queen of the world, would you do good things or bad things? Hey, you're
Yeah.
not going to be perfect. No one's going to be perfect because we're human, but that's the thing. And can you start to think a little bigger? Can because what other dreams are you blocking? What other things are you closing the door on because you're scared what's behind door number two? And is that okay? And if it's not, well, it might be, but if it's not, how do you lean into that? How do you, and to me, I think, and because I struggle with the same things. I mean, everything we're talking about here, I'd
Yeah.
love to say, oh, I've overcome this, but the fact is, uh, I've made progress for sure. I'm in a very different place since I've started this work of this idea of being worthy to myself, because I'm the only one whole. When you think about it, in this entire any struggles that we had in this meditation as you were doing it, you can't blame somebody else for those struggles. No one else is, there's nothing else. It's just you. It's literally just you putting up an obstacle to yourself, putting up a hurdle to yourself. I mean, well, if I don't work hard, if I don't pay my dues, I don't deserve this. Like, so notice the transactional nature of that.
Yeah.
It's where, yeah.
It Yeah, no. I completely agree, and I don't mean to cut you off.
No,
But so many thoughts are kind of rolling. The first one is
love it.
just the sense in which, like, capitalism and meritocracy keep kind of coming up for me. That there is this sense of, like, if you work hard and you work harder than anyone else, then you will get there. You will be queen of the world, to kind of continue our visualization metaphor.
Yeah.
And I think when I look at other people who are quote unquote on top of the world, I don't think they're very good people. I don't think a lot of people think that they're very good people, at least people that I tend to vibe with. And there is this certain sense of, like, well, how do you get to be a billionaire unless you have done something wrong? And so almost the pathway to being queen of the world, as opposed to, like, well, once I'm there, it's like it's easier for me to imagine I am already queen of the world and I can do great things. To get there, to traverse the path to make that a reality, feels impossible without hurting someone else, which is, even as I say it, why place that rule on myself? Why is that a necessity to be there? That is absolutely a block that I am self-supplanting. I love what you said too about, well, aren't you just doing the exact same thing to yourself that you're so afraid of doing to other people? And it's very much your greatest strength is your greatest weakness, right? And this was something I talk about Catherine Hart all the time, but in one of my acting classes, we did this exercise where we were identifying our greatest strengths and greatest weaknesses and how they were actually the same thing. And she was like, Reese, you are one of the most selfless people in the world. You are one of the most selfless people in the world. And I was like that nailed me, that I was like, I need to get real about who myself is, because I can't just be a vessel for other people. And then lastly, as you said, that it sounds very transactional, and it does get to this place of, like, oh, I have no problem getting a foot massage if I pay someone to do it, right? And it's like, this is the agreement that we've entered into, that society has deemed fair, deemed just. Why does everything have to be so transactional? Isn't there a way that we can reach equity without currency? And it makes me think of the Heidegger concept of technological futurism, where it's like we start to treat everyone in our day as just another transaction, as opposed to a human being. And actually, if we were treating people as human beings, wouldn't it actually feel a little bit weirder to say, I'm going to pay you to massage my feet, than, hey, let me massage your feet because I care about you? Like, when you're little, I remember I would always ask my mom to scratch my back, right? And I think that that's a memory that a lot of us have. And it's like, you would never pay your mom to do that. It's just, one of those lovely things that parents will do for their kids, that it feels nice and you feel loved and cared for, and it's the physical touch. But to say, okay, mom, here's $5. That's really odd, actually.
Yeah,
You wouldn't
or
do
even,
that.
right, but how would it? Well, okay, mom, I put the dishes out of the dishwasher. Could you scratch my back? I mean,
Yeah,
that's something, like, I mean, that's just as, yes, you never offer your mom $5 to scratch your back, but don't we do that in everyday life with in everything? Like, oh
yeah,
well, and even this, I mean, you said it yourself, to work hard. So that's you have to somehow reward yourself. But if you reward yourself, then you also have to punish yourself. You can't
Yeah.
have one without the other. You can't just reward yourself and not punish yourself, because both sides have to exist. If you're worthy of reward, then you're also worthy of punishment. And so what I
Yeah.
say is why is it either? Like,
Yeah.
why do I need to punish myself, and why do I am my own reward? Is the way I would love to live, and that's what I think this meditation gets at the heart of. And again, I don't know that, people may or may not want people to rub their feet or scratch their, but there is
Right.
something you want, right? Whatever it is, and in fact, that'd be a great way to find what is it that you really want, that you don't, that you need somebody else to, or that ostensibly you want somebody else to do. And are you,
Yeah.
the first question I always ask is, are you doing it for yourself? Do you feel that way about yourself? So,
Yeah.
I mean, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to be. I mean, people have different desires. Our listeners, some people have a desire to be put on a pedestal. They want to be, put up there and, worshipped with a lowercase w, or maybe an uppercase w, whatever. Like, that's their desire, and that's okay. And because you know what, there's somebody out there who is interested in that, who that's what they were. And when you're in the flow, everybody's happy. It doesn't have to be a zero sum game with whatever that is, whether it's work, whether it's play, whether it's, romantic, whether it's just friendships. Like, there is, and I, I I just feel we lead such unfulfilling lives sometimes because
Mm,
we're just scared to even acknowledge what we really want. And again, this goes back to shadow work, like what we've talked about.
yeah.
But to realize that you're, when you know who you are, things just flow around you more. Like, when you truly, because if you're living in the state of being the queen of your own life, the sovereign of your own life, everybody has to follow that when it's real, because they have no choice, because you see yourself that way. And again, does King Charles, or formerly Queen Elizabeth, she wakes up in the morning, she's still queen. It doesn't matter how she feels. She doesn't, there's no question of, oh shit, I got bedhead this morning, I'm not the queen. Like, that doesn't happen. She just takes it, she just assumes it. And what I guess I'm saying is that every single one of our listeners can do the same. There's nothing
Yeah.
stopping them from doing the same, other than themselves. There's no circumstances, and again, I know many people find themselves in difficult circumstances, and I don't make light of that. And this is not a, positive vibes only kind of thing. It's not a, fake it till you make it, because that it is truly starting to believe that, what, you are the sovereign of your own
Yeah.
life. But again, and it's also saying, I understand that some people in society would say this is selfish, because I mean, kind of, it all goes down. We've all been called selfish, all the, for any time. And I'm sure that was part of what happened to you growing up. You're selfish because you wanted to do something for yourself. Wow, I wanted to go to this dinner, or I wanted to play video games, so I'm selfish. I didn't clean up the kitchen after I made cereal, so I'm selfish. I left the box out. Selfish, selfish, selfish. And I guess I'm here to say it's not selfish to be who you are, and to see your greatness. It's not to lord it over anyone. It's not to be better than or superior to. It is to just walk in the joy of being who you are and loving what you love and who you love and what you want.
Yeah.
But if you can't do that in your imagination, how could you ever expect to have it in the real world? And to me, that's the thing that I dislike for people. That I want people to see themselves as how powerful they are, because when you're powerful, you give freely, because you know it's yours. You give out of your
Yeah.
abundance. And so if you're the sovereign of your own life, you're queen of your own life, you can be gracious to other people because you know who you are. Why are we not gracious to people? Because we're scared. We closed ourselves off. We don't see well, if I'm nice to them, what do I get? Again, going back to this transactional attunement, this
Yeah.
technological attunement to life, like everything's a deal. Everything's a
Right.
deal. Why?
Yeah. Why?
Why does it have to? Why do we put that on ourselves?
Yeah.